Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble News channel. It's crazy to think about, but I think the real reason they haven't given up on the global carbon market is because they need that new asset class that's so big. Because one of the things about natural assets, at least in the natural asset corporation model, is that you can go into a forest, a river, or a lake and find the natural asset. Then you issue shares in the natural asset, a lake, a forest, whatever, and sell those shares to sovereign wealth funds, asset managers, etc. And then you have an IPO and make a lot of money. It's really that bad. Macron, the French president, said at the Global Finance Summit in Paris a year ago that the world needs a public financial shock to fight climate change. Claude Schwab, executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, said the same thing about changing the global economy. Every country, from the US to China, must take part, and every business, from oil and gas to tech, must be changed. Schwab wrote on the website of a non-governmental organization that, according to the well-known investigative reporter Whitney Webb, a new international monetary system based on the blockchain is being built to replace Bretton Woods and help with the full surveillance and censorship of our lives. Whitney's warnings come from what few global leaders and WEF puppets have said. These include Macron and Mark Carney, who was governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada and is now an unofficial envoy for climate action and finance. Carney said that digital IDs, CBDCs, and ESG are the three pillars. Not long ago, I talked to Mark Goodwin, who is the editor-in-chief of Bitcoin magazine. Whitney says that this new world order is being pushed by all governments around the world with money from the very rich and powerful, including executives from Silicon Valley. During their talk with Goodwin, Whitney warns that soon everything from forests to rivers, mountains, and lakes will be owned and traded by the very rich and powerful. This will make them stronger and closer to their goal of controlling the rest of us. Whitney talks about two important parts of the New World Order: digital IDs and tokenizing the natural world. He says that people who think like Schwab and use puppets like Macron are almost able to carry out their big plans, which would be very bad for everyone. To be fair, it looks like there is a plan for Larry Fink's case. Well, they have a big goal to create new types of assets that can be used to support their current business plan and keep it going for, thousands of years. I've been writing about the idea of natural assets or nature's economy for a few years now. But one of the groups that has been pushing this forward is the Intrinsic Exchange Group, which is made up of people from the Rockefeller Foundation and the Multilateral Development Banking System. They have a graphic on their website called The Opportunity. They show how many assets are already in the world economy, and then show what would happen if we use natural assets. They say that nature's economy is about 6 times as many assets as the current economy. So as an asset manager, BlackRock obviously wants to be able to access and control as many natural assets as possible that aren't part of the current financial system. This way they can keep doing what they're doing and gain more power over not only people in the current financial system, but also over the natural world, and basically turn everything that is living into a financial product that can be bought and sold on Wall Street. And Fink has said that the goal is to have all of this on a universal ledger on blockchain so that it can be tracked and watched. This is interesting when you think about risk management, which is something that Fink has said has been most important to him throughout his career. So by being able to watch over it all, and in a way automating it, he can have his risk management AI thing, Aladdin, take care of it in ways that have never been seen before, which I think is good for them. Also, as we move to a new system for financial governance, there is a push to change all of the infrastructure to a green model, or decarbonization, which means interacting with the global carbon market, but it doesn't have to be that way. But it's clear that the goal is to build a lot of new infrastructure around the world. BlackRock is setting itself up to be one of the most important companies in that field. One of the largest infrastructure companies in the world, I think their name is GIP, was bought by them. And I think one of their top leaders talked about how they're putting a lot of money into infrastructure going forward at Davos not long ago. And it's actually going to be one of the best times to invest in the next few decades. I believe they have a lot of goals. I'm sure they'll get away with it if people don't know this. We'll see. Now that the answer is ready. A nice crisis is all the world's rulers need to wrap things up. There will be bad times, though. It will mean the end of the way the world's money works now. The top 1% of people will get rich, while many honest workers, parents, and people with elderly parents and siblings will lose everything. Whitney believes that the harm to the economy will be equal to or greater than the harm caused by the Second World War. The big and small banks will be happy to support digital currencies and urge people to join the system so they can get back all the money they lost in the crash. People will give up all their privacy and other rights to the global leaders in exchange for a small amount of what they lost. In a world where everything you buy is closely watched, let's say that you've already eaten more meat than you were meant to during a certain time period. You go to the grocery store to get your things, but as the cashier or computer tries to ring up your order, they get a message that says you can't buy any more meat or the world will end. We are now in the future. Lawrence and others want to tokenize everything, even nature, which is even worse than what Whitney and Mark are telling us. Here are some more show videos. As I said in the piece about tokenized ink, there are a few companies that are trying to place themselves in that way. In the case of global carbon markets or the infrastructure for them, a business like Flow Carbon tokenizes the assets. They do this by tokenizing carbon credits that are made by another company that standardizes high-integrity carbon credits. They are known by a few different names. It looks like there are about 5 main ones, and those are the ones in between them. As a result, they say they can verify all of these reserves. This is to avoid some of the problems that happened with carbon markets when they tried to start up in the past, like double counting or giving carbon credits for forests that they said were being saved from logging but were never in danger. And some of these controversies they're trying to get around with claiming that, not unlike Fink, does the idea that like having it on blockchain magically is going to eliminate corruption. Which is funny because I think the way that they're able to perpetuate their corruption that they've been able to get away with in these ostensibly highly regulated markets we already have. I think the way they're going to do it in this model is through these trusted third parties, just, the trust us guys, they'll be able to, manage, our stuff, the surf stuff, and not let us get away with anything probably. But the big guys at the top, I'm sure will be able to manipulate those trusted third parties. And in a lot of the cases, of like Oracle companies that act as those oracles like Chainlink, I guess. You have prominent major big oligarchs like Eric Schmidt being intimately involved with their rise. And will they be beholden to those oligarchs at some point if they're like, we need you to do this and that? I'm not sure. Something like that has happened before, so why wouldn't it happen now? In other words, would blockchain stop that? That is, not always, right? You say you have a lot of character. Who started Carbon Flow? Oh, Carbon Flow. Adam Newman from WeWork. They use the word high integrity because they're trying to change the way people think about it after some past mistakes that gave carbon markets a bad name. Soon, the selling point will be that these same people say this is the cure for climate change through the free market. The best way to solve our environmental problems is to let the free market do its thing. It's probably going to be hidden behind those metrics, since putting it in a left-leaning light has clearly not worked and has led to a lot of backlash. For example, BlackRock and Vanguard have quit some large climate groups they were a part of. Larry Fink has publicly moved away from the word ESG after being known as the ESG champion. He has said that a lot of the things BlackRock has been doing that have been called ESG are not about politics or ideology. It's about the chance of making money and returns in the long run. Because they don't want it to be led by the government, they want the big players in the financial markets to sign on. I think his rhetoric in that way is a sign of what we can expect in the future. So that they will support it, they want it to be led by the private sector. This will also, I think, stop a lot of the complaints from people on the right and the populist right in general, the men with guns. Yeah, well, most gun owners in the US, right, they want to make them happy.